Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. We're still talking about Matters Budget 2024-2025, and also in studio I still have my panel of economic experts and tax experts. But let's first take a look at the briefcase that will carry the budget for the next financial year that is kicking off in July, right there at National Treasury. Remember, he will carry this briefcase as he goes to Parliament to address Kenyans as well as the members of Parliament, and how the picture looks like when it comes to the financial year 2024-2025. Now, as in studio, I still have my panel of economic and tax experts who are helping us crunch the numbers. And on the far right, as I had indicated, I have a CPA, Esther Wamalwa, I have James Chwanya, and also have Rachel Njuguna. Now, coming to you, James, I would like you to react to what the CS said in terms of protecting economic recovery and talking about this can only be done through policy reforms and also growing of exports.
Thank you. That's an interesting speech coming from the CS. I agree with him to an extent that in the last couple of years we have had some bit of shocks to the economy that have to an extent affected our growth as a country. 5% is not very ideal if you compare to the rest of the East African countries that are growing much faster than we are growing, and we are losing so many businesses to our neighbors. I think Ethiopia currently is doing far much better. But these shocks have not just affected Kenya alone. I think the rest of the other countries are equally affected by the shocks. So to an extent, I would say that is very good semantics coming from him, but I would disagree with him in terms of how we intend to collect that revenue. While we agree that the debt level has skyrocketed and going by almost close to 10.5 trillion in terms of debt, I think that is significantly high, and there's need for us to reduce that and probably collect taxes domestically. We've always said we don't really have a problem with paying taxes. Our problem in terms of paying taxes is the taxes do we collect, does it go into the use that it is intended to go to? And that is now where corruption and accountability comes in. I think what the CS is talking about is more of a governance issue because we don't really need to increase the taxes, but rather we need to cut down on the wastages in terms of the expenditures in government of agencies, as well as the county government. That is where we are losing so much revenue as opposed to the attempted increase in taxes. And if you look at the manner in which the CS is going around it and attempting to increase taxes, we are just coming from 2023, where the kind of taxes that we increased, we really haven't met those targets. And we are now attempting to increase another set of taxes in the current year, while the economy is just growing at just 5%. And you look at the proposals, because he's defending the finance bill, and I'm not saying the finance bill is a bad policy. Some of those proposals they have on the finance bill are very aggressive, and some of those policies will go against the very revenue they intend to collect. If you look, for example, the motor vehicle tax benefit, or the motor vehicle circulation tax, he's talking about increasing or having more people employed. But some of those taxes are actually going to lead to job cuts. The motor vehicle tax that they've proposed to increase, the bankers, the Kenya Bankers Association is telling him that that is going to actually affect the loan uptake for motor vehicles. And we are hoping the committee will listen to some of those issues. There are very many other agencies that have also come. The insurance company is saying that most people will be moving from comprehensive to third party. And we agree. Now, if people are moving from the comprehensive cover to third party, what does that mean in terms of the industry itself? We are looking at job cuts or increased job cuts for that matter. The financial sector, the taxes they've brought in for financial sector will affect you and me, and will affect the third party, because there's an excess duty that is proposed to be increased on financial services. There's a VAT that is proposed to be increased on some insurance services as well as financial services, and mobile banking is right at the root of the operations or the activities in the country. If I want to send money to my mama down in the village, the only way for me to be able to do that is through mobile banking. And now we are going through the mobile banking way and attempting to increase taxes in that avenue. Now, I want to talk about one thing that is also failed to talk about, because if you look through the very proposals, there's an attempted amendment to the Data Protection Act. That is not how to go about it, because if you want to give KRA the power to be able to be exempted from accessing such kind of information, it means the kind of information KRA is going after is your bank accounts. KRA is going to access this information from the land registry. KRA is going to the telcos, because if they go to the telcos, it means they want to access my mobile, my M-Pesa statements. And you look at the manner in which the government is going about it to try and collect the kind of taxes that they want to collect. Those are very punitive and aggressive measures. There are much better ways to go about that revenue collection, despite, or rather, more different from how they are going about it. Now, I think if I remember correctly, about 2-3 weeks ago, we were before the National Assembly, the Committee on Finance and National Planning. Okay. And they are saying that the reason for them to remove the kind of exemptions they have for VAT is because they want to, there's a revenue leak of about close to 360 billion that they want to collect. Now, going about it by introducing or attempting to collect 56 billion on motor vehicle tax, why not just increase or expand the VAT rates, move it from 16% to 18%, and it cuts across everyone else. Okay. And you'll still be able to collect almost close to 100 billion from that particular proposal. Where I agree with him that the debt level is high, but what we need to do is we need to cut down on the expenditure and wastages, and we need to expand the tax bracket so that it just doesn't affect a few of the people.
Esther, I would like to hear from you as well about the speech that the CS has just given to us, defending the tax measures proposed in the Finance Bill 2024, and talking about balancing in terms of policy reforms, programs, and interventions.
Thank you so much, and I totally agree with him in terms of him talking about there being limited resources, and the demands, the expenditures is high. And here we are looking at what is the resource envelope. And it's just the ordinary revenue, the revenues that we're getting, and borrowings. And what I don't agree with him is the issue of overburdening the already burdened taxpayer. And they should look at ways in which to incentivize this taxpayer and collect more revenue in terms of the processes that they're using, in terms of widening the tax base, in terms of looking at even the informal sector, which for the longest time had not been whatever that. And could it be it's time we actually lived within our means in terms of this is the actual, not actual, realistic targets, revenue targets that we will be able to collect, and then match the expenditure to that. As my colleague has said, the issue of Kenyans is not even being overtaxed, but in terms of accountability, in terms of the revenues that are collected. There's a lot of wastages. There's a lot of wastages in the expenditure, especially in the public sector. And in terms of policy reforms, what he's talked about, if we can come up with policy reforms that can spur economic growth, that will be so welcome. The interest rates, the CBK increased the base interest rate from 12.5%, that was in 2023, to 13% in February 2024. And this has increased the credit costs in terms of for the domestic borrowers. And with this, definitely everything just goes up in terms of the cost of doing business, in terms of creation of jobs and all that. If the CBK can have a balanced approach in terms of the way it tightens its monetary policy. That will be welcome. And other policy reforms that the ministry can come up with just to encourage the economy to grow. There's the issue of, if you look at the budget keenly, another thing is the wage bill. It stands at about 1.17 trillion. And you look also at the pension payments, it's about 199 billion. And with this, actually the fiscal consolidation strategy on wages might not work. And another thing, if you look at the budget keenly, it's the terms in terms of development, the development expenditure. And with that, given that we are not able to collect the revenues at 100%, supplementary budgets are done. And when supplementary budgets are done, what is affected? They go for the development budget. Recently, what's have been this week, the president has assented to the second supplementary budget, and about 88 billion of the development budget was reduced. What does that mean? An increase in the pending bills, and also how many people are affected in terms of the reduction in that development budget. How many jobs could have been created with that, and also just the impact in the economy with the reduction of such.
Okay.
So I think there should be reforms around that.
Okay, before I take you to Mombasa, where our reporter Njuguna will be speaking to President of the Mombasa Youth Parliament, I'd like to bring in Rachel in talking about the target KRA has set. I know in this financial year, or rather has been set, I know in this financial year the KRA is set to miss the target by about 300 billion shillings, and with the new tax proposals, they are targeting to collect about 346 billion shillings. What do you make of that?
From where I sit, it still looks ambitious, because when I look at the budget proposals through the Finance Bill 2024, definitely it has a big proposals around the issue of indirect taxes. But when I look at the revenue collections by KRA, income tax tops the list, and then we have import duties, excise, VAT, and the rest follow. So we've seen this finance bill very big on indirect taxes, and this is the VAT, for example, on the financial services. We have the excess duties on edible oils, we have the excess duty on financial transaction. But the big question is, indirect taxes are taxes on consumption, meaning that if our incomes do not increase, then it means that even our spending power reduces. And the rate on the banking like transactions and maybe insurance and the other taxes that are being proposed, that means that people will have to think through before they do that transaction. For example, if you are doing like 10, 15 transactions in your bank account, you'll be starting to think about, do I need to do this transaction because the excess duty rate has moved to 20%? We have an additional VAT charge at 16%. So it will become a question of, do I spend or do I not spend? The thing is, the spending power has decreased. So of course, with even the proposals being in place, highly unlikely that that deficit will be met. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'll take you straight to Mombasa County, where our reporter Njuguna is talking to the president of Mombasa Youth Parliament. Njuguna, if you can hear me, I know you have been interacting with us since morning, but I'd like to hear from you. What is the president of Mombasa Youth Parliament saying when it comes to this budget 2024-2025?
Good morning. We are in Mombasa. Today we are engaging the youth, just get their sentiments on some of the proposals that the government has put in terms of matters budget. I'm joined by the Mombasa voice, he's Alfred Otieno, to give us a voice of where the youth stand in all of this. What is their voice? What are the areas of concerns? Karibu sana. Tuanze, many youths right now, the percentage of unemployment rate currently stands is a bit high. The government is trying to create an enabling environment so that the youth can then offtake their individual businesses. In this new tax reforms, do you think that the government has put into consideration that space and for the youth to initiate businesses, to remit taxes, as well as have profits so that they can employ others or empower others?
Thank you for the privilege. In reality, some of us, serving as a youth president, we will not discount the good work that our president has been doing. And also when you look at the term that he's been in office, it's still too early to at least complain about certain things. But when it comes to taxes, as youths, we will still continue to request that the taxation on our businesses needs to be regulated downward, because the high taxation is hurting a number of businesses for different youths. And again, if you look at the budget that is to be read today, you will realize that yes, a lot of goodies will be read that will attract a number of the youths. But now we are facing a very major challenge that if His Excellency our President will manage to contain, tutakuwa mambo nywe. You find that there is a gap between the leadership na sisi mashinani. The now figures that will be read, the things that will be passed, ukikam kureplicate the impact chini, unapata vitu mashinani ni tofauti. Coming to issues to do with the same economic empowerment, sisi kama vijana tunapenda sana. If you look at the internet penetration rate from 7.7% now to 93% almost the whole country, people are well connected. Pia inakuja na biashara zake. But now you will realize that kuna hawa tunaita anti-development cartels wenye wanajua sana kujiposition, that have been almost benefiting from all these goodies that the government imekuwa kitupangia. So tunaomba, ama mimi kama rais wa vijana, ningependa kumuomba rais wetu Ruto that as you roll out the finance budget, as you read it out, please consider also finding some amount ya zile taxes mnazotax. You just deal perpendicularly with the ruthless anti-development cartels that have been frustrating all efforts by the government. Because every year, ukiangalia the transition rate from shule to now streets, vis-a-vis the creation of the jobs, inakuwa ni ngumu. Now if you look at the Kenya Kwanza plan, una realize wanatupangia almost 1.2 million jobs annually. That is a big plus for some of us. But now when it comes to now allowing those youths to now survive through the process or the benefit from it, inakuwa ni wale wenye walishatoka kwa ujana, wale wenye hawajajipanga, ama wanatumia vijana wenye bado ni teenagers as proxies, and that to some of us is hurting a number of things that we are doing around. So tunaomba as budget inasomwa, please consider, hata kama mtatupatia sisi kama vijana hiyo kazi ya kudeal na the ruthless cartels, hatuna shida hiyo. Alafu pia something that has been our government needs to consider, loyalty ama patriotism ya mtu yote mwanabiashara Kenya hii ni kuangalia mahali ana invest. If anybody, any leader, any business person gets a lot of benefits from Kenya but invests away from Kenya, that person's patriotism and loyalty is somewhere else. We need to reconsider and change some of these things, because the more we invest in Kenya, the more vijana tutapata kazi, the more tutaweza kuenuka wote na kujengana, because sisi kama vijana hatufurahi kukaa idle mitaani, lakini unapata the circumstances that are there. Also on the same budget, vitu kama mkate, sisi tunaomba pia rais wetu, when you tax such things, inamaanisha sisi vijana hatutaweza kukula mkate for a while. So or else if possible put an age gap. Mtulipie sisi vijana, lipa nusu ya mkate. Mimi kama kijana nikienda kwa shop I can pay half because sina kazi, but I still would want to promote and to enjoy the services that come with that mkate. If possible also, we are requesting our government to consider a special basket ya cash. Especially angalia kama Mombasa tumekuwa tukingangana every time. A lot of big ships, cruise ships comes, a number of tourists come. Well, tourism wise tumegrow, lakini vitu mashinani tofauti. requesting every time our government that if a cruise ship comes, let's ensure that when the big companies take over the tourists, wakiwazungusha ndani huko kwa hoteli kubwa kubwa, wawapitishe mashinani kwa the small, the beaches, nini, ndio pia mtu wa chini apate hata hiyo ni $100, $10 hiyo, but there is a certain clique or cartel that has refused to allow mtu yoyote mwenye ako chini a survive. Na sisi kama vijana tunajua mpango ziko na Mungu anatukumbuka, na our president is a God serving president. I know he will remember us together with his team. Yeah.
You've talked about the digital space, na pale pia we've seen there are taxes that have been put to regulate because the tax reforms are increasing that space. What happens to now getting an enabling environment for most creatives, or I can call them creatives, to flourish as we wind up?
If some of us were to suggest an understanding our youth space very well and proposing a youth-friendly formula that can at least work a win-win situation for all of us, creatives for now should not be taxed. Period. In fact, enough money, the same way Hustler Fund is being increased, enough money needs to be added. Besides, even if it is Wezo Fund, to ensure that creatives are well supported, let's give them room for at least 3, 4, 5 years. Then once that is done, now we can put measures as a kuwa tax. Because sasa ndio tunaanza. Ndio line yetu, alafu sasa tena mnatubandika taxes. Na unajua kivyovyote vile kama vijana hatutaki kukwepa taxes. And I will even continue reinsisting to our fellow youths also, tulipeni tax ndio kama nchi tujitegemee. Tusitegemee, tusikue under the masses of wanaotufund from outside. And for that to be possible, let us truly empower vijana economically, bila kubagua na bila kuangalia whether dini, rangi, kabila. Shukran.
Asante sana. Those are wise words from the president of the Mombasa Youth Parliament. They are raising their voice, also their contribution as Kenyans on how this budget will impact them. We are crossing over to Frederick Mwoki, who's in Nairobi CBD, to also continue with the conversation. But from Mombasa County, I'm Juni Karisa. Over to you, Mwoki.
Thank you so much, June Karisa in Mombasa, of course, roaming around the streets of Nairobi CBD, and all eyes shift attention to today's afternoon when the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury and Economic Planning will be presenting the budget statement later today. And I'll just have a conversation with a cross-section of Kenyans around here to tell us their expectations and how it's going to impact the livelihoods of Kenyans starting July. Welcome to this live broadcast. Maybe just introduce yourself and share insights about the 2024 budget and the proposed finance bill.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Joe. I am a Kenyan citizen by birth, surviving and living. Yes.
We understand that today the Cabinet Secretary is set to present the budget statement in Parliament. What are your expectations in regards to the 2024 budget?
Well, this budget we hear, it's a 4 trillion budget, 4 trillion shillings budget, and that has been an increase of about, I think, 6.5% from last year. So what we hope is that with this budget, hoping that they're going to increase the development budget as opposed to increasing the recurrent budget. Because if the recurrent budget is increased, then it means that we'll not have much of development happening, isn't it? And I think the country right now, we crave for development, not that we have to pay the ballooning salaries of these people who have joined government, but we need a lot more money being put in development. Yes.
I understand that there is the proposed finance bill 2024, and there are some of the proposed taxes and maybe their implications. What's your comment on that, and what do you think about that?
Well, I think in regards to the tax bill, there's been that committee, the Finance Committee, I believe, from Parliament that has been taking the public views. And from what we have been getting from the media yourselves is that there's an overwhelming negative response against the tax bill. And I'm hoping they will take those issues and matters into consideration. Because think about it, if they talk about this being a mwananchi tax bill, I don't think it's a mwananchi tax bill. Because if you want to tax your mwananchi to prosperity, I don't think that happens. You're not supposed to constantly tax people to prosperity. If you look at, for example, they're saying there's going to be more, I think it's the excise duty being added on cooking oil. So meaning the cost of cooking oil is going to go up, something basic like that. We had the transport CS saying that he wants to increase the maintenance road levy. So what does that mean? The fuel prices are going to go up. That means the common mwananchi who uses public transport, it means the cost of bus fare is going to go up. Look at the manufacturers who depend on electricity. So it also means the cost of electricity will go up. So it means that it will be unsustainable for manufacturers to continue doing business and will close down. So when it closes down, what does that mean? The rate of unemployment is going to increase and increase and increase. And I don't think that's what we want. I think there has to be a big concentration in regards to this budget being more of a development budget. Grow the economy. How do you grow the economy? Build the industries that really contribute, to the bottom line of the country, the industries that will increase employment, okay? So that you can even add more people to the tax bracket. If your fear is that you're not having enough taxes, then why don't you increase the tax bracket? Why don't you encourage manufacturers? Why don't you lower the rates of electricity so that they can hire more people? So when you hire more people, you have more people in the tax bracket. So the finance bill, I think it's a no-no. Most of the parts of it is a no-no. Some are yes, well, we don't disagree, but most of it is a no. Yes.
What's your recommendation to policymakers, and what do you really think that the government should focus on?
The government should really focus on development. The government should be focused on building local industries. The government should focus on building SMEs and micro SMEs, not wanting to tax them so much that even those businesses, they will not be able to expand, because the government is taking more from you as opposed to helping you to grow. So they need to focus on development. They need to focus on building local industries. They need to focus on even, there are many kind of industries involved, like there's tannery industry, especially if you do it in the side of Kwale. It can be able to employ more people. The government has huge tracts of land. Why don't you give concessions to people who want to do farming? Give them those lands. So there's a lot. I'm not a policy maker. The policy people know these things. The government can do a lot if they truly want to. Yes.
And maybe from where you sit, what sectors or ministry do you think they deserve to be the largest shareholders or benefit more in the proposed budget?
I wouldn't want to target it on one specific sector, because all sectors contribute to the overall GDP of the country. Spread it out. Because you have many sectors. You have education. I'm hoping in this budget that they've catered for the school feeding program, not reducing the budget that they've allocated for the school feeding program. We have tourism. Kenya is a beautiful country. You can promote tourism by bringing in more people. There's a manufacturing sector. There's trade. There's so much. So what we're just simply saying is that spread it equitably to most of these industries, not increasing the budgets for office of the president and vice president. They need to be taking pay cuts. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. As you've heard, it's just an opinion from a cross-section of Kenyans as we shift attention to today's big day, the budget day, when the Cabinet Secretary for Economic Planning and Treasury, Professor Ndungu, will be presenting the budget statement in Parliament. We will keep you more posted about what will be happening today as we engage a cross-section of Kenyans within the Nairobi CBD to shed more light on the expectations and how the budget 2024 is going to impact the livelihoods of Kenyans out there. We'll be back to you later on our subsequent bulletins.
Frederick Moki there speaking to Kenyans on this year's, or rather the next year's budget, and talking to us about some of the expectations they have towards this budget. Now, on your screen, you can see the briefcase there, the iconic briefcase, budget briefcase. And actually, if I may give you a few facts about this iconic briefcase there, it is actually the most nostalgic photos you'll have seen for most ministers of finance whenever they walk out of Treasury building on the budget day. And of course, the CS, Njuguna will walk out with that budget briefcase that you're seeing on your screen. Well, he's while he is going into Parliament, remember, he cannot complete that look without that briefcase, and he will be walking into Parliament on the budget. Rather, he has to walk with it to Parliament, and he will be marking the Treasury boss would raise it when he leaves the Treasury building and wave it to the flashing cameras before marching into the August House to announce how the government plans to spend that year's budget. It is the iconic photos that identify former ministers and Treasury at the Treasury boardroom, I mean. Now, the black briefcase there on your screen was expected to lose its significance after the new constitution that was passed in 2010. But this is because most of the information in the budget should have been presented to Parliament long before the statement is read. Yes, we will be looking at that as well as other areas that our reporters will be talking about in terms of this financial year's budget, and also looking at the expectations and tax proposals that have been indicated in the Finance Bill 2024. Now, coming back to our studio and talking about the increase in recurrent expenditure, and one of the expectations from one of the viewers there talked about increasing of recurrent expenditure, and I'd like to bring you in, Wamalwa, I bring you in on development going down. And you can see that the recurrent allocation is at 1.5 trillion shillings, and development expenditure has decreased to 724.4 billion shillings. What does that mean for this country?
Thank you so much. What constitutes a huge chunk in the recurrent expenditure is the wage bill. And I think that needs, there must be a discussion around that in terms of maintaining the wage bill at sustainable levels. Because you will find that, I don't have the percentages, but you'll find that a huge percentage goes towards the wage bill, and that's what causes the recurrent expenditure to go up. But there are also other recurrent expenditures which can be reduced, cut, in order to finance the development budget. And it's very important for the development budget, and the PFM is very clear about that in terms of the percentage of development budget in any budget. It's required that the development budget should be at least 30% of the budget. And you have the figures, we need to find out, is that 30%? And with, as you said, with development budget, it directly increases the development and even just its past growth in terms of creation of jobs, in terms of injecting the cash into the economy. And with that, even the spending ability of people and the spending capacity of people is going to go up. And it's going to create the employment that we've always been talking about, creation of job, not only to youth, but to the people of this country. And also just for the country to develop. It's very, very important for that budget to be there. Unfortunately, what has been happening because of limited resources, what is the first place where the cuts are going to be done? And this surely the development budget in subsequent supplementary budgets, when now indications are there that the local revenue is not, the ordinary revenue is not going to be collected. Even the ANAs in ministries, once they look at the projections as the quarters advances, they look at the projections and they have to do the revisions, what is really affected mostly the development budget, because one, unless now they go back to the market and borrow to cushion that, they have to do the readjustments in the development budget. And this has led even now to increase in pending bills, because at times the commitments have already been done and now the budget cuts have to be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
James, it seems like about 8 million Kenyans are the ones who are carrying this burden when it comes to taxes. There have been talks about widening the tax base year in, year out, but that seems not to be happening. But in your views, how can we bring in the informal sector?
Thank you very much. I think I have to agree with the government to an extent that, and that is one of the things the national tax policy is talking about, that we need to go to the add to tax sectors, and that would include the informal sector as well as agriculture. Now, if you look through the kind of taxation that is put on just a small section of Kenyans, 8 million of about 52 million people, is a heavy burden to carry. And one of the things I'll probably look into is technology, because we've seen the introduction of technology in administration and collection of taxes, where we had the government pushing everybody towards the use of Teams and the eTeam software. And we've also seen technology used more in terms of the collection of taxes. I would tend to believe that the government can actually enhance technology further, make the systems a little user-friendly, even to an extent that the informal sectors perhaps would be able to pay taxes just from their mobile phones. But the current systems we have are a little not user-friendly, and that is why it would be very difficult to get the mama mbogas down there to be able to account for taxes from the informal sector. Then I would also look at probably in a bid to expand the tax bracket. I think a couple of years back we had the presumptive tax, which for one reason or the other was eventually removed. But if you look at the manner in which the presumptive tax was working, is that we were actually collecting the taxes at the county government, the Nairobi County Government, or Kanjo as we call it. They have the machinery to be able to collect the taxes. I think that is why even if you see through the estates, you see because of the licenses, when you hear that the county government officers are actually passing around, you see businesses running and closing because of licenses. If you ask me, one of the better ways to be able to collect that tax is probably link it to the license, and for that reason it would be very easy to collect the taxes at that level, rather than just burden a few people with the collection of that tax.
Does KRA deserve more resources to fully digitize, maybe to reduce that interaction between the taxpayer and KRA?
It is interesting you've asked that question, because I was reading in the newspaper the other day when the CG was in Parliament requesting for additional funding for KRA. Here we are trying to attempt to collect more taxes, and the very agency that is meant to collect those taxes is running short of funding itself. They have huge pending bills from the Kenya Revenue Authority. I think when we introduced digitalization in the manufacturing industry, what we call the EGMS system to try and collect excise duty, the information that is running around is that the very supplier is still owed huge terms of huge debt in terms of that. So yes, while we agree that we need to go the digitalization way, we also need to fund the Kenya Revenue Authority in a manner that the very technologies they intend to use are actually sufficiently funded.
Okay. Thank you so much. Before we come to Rachel and talk about whether, when it comes to budget transparency and participation, where does the government rank, I would like us to take a short commercial break, and then we'll come back with Rachel.